Marriage of chocolate and matcha. Asian dessert. So this is triple chocolatey. Whee! Welcome to another episode of My First Time. Today we're going to be making a special version of brownies, and that's going to be Matcha Swirl Brownies. I've made all different types of brownies, but I've never actually made any type of brownie with matcha or tea in it. So we'll see if I succeed or if I fail. Hopefully I'll succeed and we'll have something yummy and tasty with an Asian twist on it. So we're gonna get started right now. So you might be wondering, what is matcha? Is matcha green tea or is green tea matcha? Matcha and green tea come from the tea species Camellia sinensis. Matcha is the entire leaf ground up, like this, in a mortar and pestle, or blended, versus green tea, where the tea leaves are dried and then boiled in hot water. Because matcha uses the whole leaf, it is known to have more antioxidants in it. Matcha comes in many different forms, and it oftentimes is characterized by a rich, buttery, earthy, delicious flavor. It also has that brilliant green hue that we love. Green! So to answer the original question, matcha is green tea, but green tea is not always matcha. And that is the difference between matcha and green tea. So the first part is going to be the chocolate base. The second part is going to be the matcha base. So I've laid out the ingredients to group them together so that I don't get confused. It's a good way to make sure that you have all your ingredients laid out and you aren't forgetting anything. So for our ingredients, we have 50 grams of all-purpose flour, 30 grams of cocoa powder. Try to find a very rich, fatty cocoa powder, 2 grams of salt, 170 grams of chocolate that you chop into rough chunks if they're not already chunked. I used 2 different types of chocolate because I was running out, so I have this Guittard brand that's 48% cacao. I've also got these dark chocolate chunks that I got from Whole Foods that is 67% cacao. Then we also have 150 grams of butter, 150 grams of brown sugar. So full transparency, I normally don't have brown sugar at home because I find that it tends to dry out very quickly and I can never use as much of it before it actually dries out and gets kind of crusty and gross. So my hack to make brown sugar is to basically take about a cup of white sugar, white granulated sugar, and then mix in about a tablespoon of molasses. So that's what I've actually done here. We'll also need a teaspoon of vanilla extract. So that's gonna cover the base of the brownie. And now we're gonna move on to the ingredients for the matcha swirl. So for the matcha swirl, we'll need 70 grams of all-purpose flour, 20 grams of matcha green tea powder. Make sure that you are buying a culinary grade of matcha. So there's really like 2 different types that you'll see. There's going to be the ceremonial grade, which is really meant for drinking the tea straight up. And then there's going to be the culinary grade. So the culinary grade that I got is Jade Leaf Matcha brand. This is organic, I bought this online. When you buy the culinary grade matcha, this is going to be a little bit bitter if you drink it straight with water, but it's perfect for anything that is basically like a matcha latte, any type of baked goods, any types of recipes where you want to bake with the matcha. Culinary grade is what you want to look for. Then we've also got 2 grams of salt. I'm using kosher salt. 170 grams of white chocolate. I've actually got chips here. 150 grams of butter, 3 eggs, 100 grams of sugar, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. One thing you may also notice as I shared all these ingredients with you is that I actually measured all these out by weight instead of by my usual cup measurements. I'm super excited. I finally decided to bite the bullet and get a kitchen scale. This is going to make sure that there's more precision in my baking and cooking overall. We'll start with the chocolate base first. So I'm going to sift together my flour, cocoa powder, and my salt. Next, we'll take our 2 eggs, vanilla extract, and our brown sugar, and whisk this together until it's nice and light and fluffy. Now we're going to add in our chocolate mixture. Lastly, for the brownie base, we're going to slowly add in the dry mixture. So we want to be careful here because we don't want to overbeat this and overmix it, because that would result in a dense brownie, which we don't want. So we're trying to create that swirl. So let's just try to dump 3/4 into this bowl and 1/4 into the second bowl. I'm just gonna have to eyeball it. I'm not weighing this, not going too crazy. That looks like 75 to 25%, right? Kind of. We'll see how it happens. We're gonna set that aside, and now we're going to do the same thing and sift the dry ingredients, the flour, matcha, and the salt. 3 eggs, the sugar, and the vanilla. Now we'll follow the exact same steps for the matcha and the white chocolate portion. So we're going to nuke the white chocolate with the butter together and microwave again. This is just white chocolate and butter melted together. This is what it should look like. Ooh, nice and frothy. So at this point, we're gonna add in the white chocolate butter mixture. And now the last step is to add in the matcha flour mixture. This is when it's gonna be nice and green. Oh yeah. Okay peeps, now is when the brownies are really gonna come together. So I've already greased an 8x8 brownie pan with butter. Now we have our 3 bowls. So we've got the matcha layer, chocolate brownie base, and then the chocolate swirl that we're gonna put on top. So the scary thing here is we don't really know if these batters are just going to combine. That's why the thickness of the brownie base really matters here, so that the green layer, when we put on top of the chocolate layer, it doesn't just meld immediately together. We want them to be 2 distinct layers, and then we want to swirl them together. So we'll find out if it's actually going to be dense enough. Wish me luck. And if you're still here, that means you're still watching, which means that you are definitely following through to the end, right? Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. I've got my brownie pan here. So I'm gonna take that 75% of the brownie base and just lay it into the pan and make sure that it's nice and even. So I don't know if you peeps can tell, but this brownie layer is super thin. I'm actually a little bit concerned about how thin it is because I don't know if it should be this thin. It was a struggle just to get it all the way to all the edges. So here goes the green tea layer. Ooh, here's our super green brownie. We're gonna take this brownie layer, we're gonna put it on 3x3. So roughly put on 3 dots. Yeah, so that's kind of like the 3x3 dot that I was thinking about, see? So we're gonna take the toothpick, just kind of squish it in like that. Okay peeps, our matcha swirl brownies are ready for the oven. I've already preheated the oven for 350 degrees Fahrenheit. We're gonna bake it for about 25 to 30 minutes until a toothpick comes out nice and dry. See you in about 25 minutes. Hey peeps, welcome back. It's actually the next day and you're probably wondering, why did I wait an entire day to share brownies with you? So I usually, when I make brownies, I'll let them sit overnight. That just helps them firm up and it makes it easier to cut into clean slices. When you cut brownies right when they're out of the oven, they tend to be too gooey and the pieces don't actually end up being that solid. And I wanted to give you some nice firm cuts. It's very, very fudgy, even more fudgy than I thought it would be. And if you take a look at the layer of the base chocolate part to the matcha white chocolate part, you'll actually notice that there's a higher proportion of the green tea matcha portion versus the chocolate base. And I'm just gonna be honest, my marbling wasn't great. It's actually kind of pathetic. You can barely even tell that there's marbling happening on the top, especially once you cut it into pieces. But hey, it was my first time. Hopefully next time I'll be able to get that marbling to really look like marble and swirl. So now it's time to take a taste. I really love the edge pieces because they tend to get a little bit more crunchy. They're also a little bit more caramelized. So I'm gonna take this piece. So here goes. It just sings matcha. So the base brownie part, it's super fudgy, super dense, but in a nice, rich, chocolatey way. And then the matcha white chocolate portion on the top layer, that part is much more fluffy because if you remember the proportions, there's actually a higher proportion of flour in the matcha layer versus the chocolate fudgy layer. So the matcha layer is definitely much more airy, it's a lot softer versus the bottom, which is much more fudgy and much more dense. So it's actually a nice textural contrast when you're biting into it. So that wraps up another episode of My First Time, where I show you how to make a recipe I've never made before, if I'm actually successful or if I'm a failure. In this case, I'd say overall I did succeed, but I clearly have work with my marbling technique on the top. My artistry is not so great in that area. So thanks so much for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. I would love to know if you are a brownie person, and if you are, do you prefer the center cut piece or the yummy, crusty, edgy pieces? And please remember to subscribe and hit the bell icon to get immediate notifications as soon as I upload my next video. What's it gonna be next for my first time? Well, wait and see. Hope to see you next time, and remember to live yummy!